The IRS targeting scandal exploding on Capitol Hill. Representative Trey Gowdy calling out President Obama for claiming there's not a smidgen of corruption.
So how can the president say there's not a smidgen of criminality when Lois Lerner invoked the Fifth Amendment? 41 witnesses haven't been interviewed, including the 2 that are here right now. I wish one of the colleagues on the other side of the aisle would ask the president how in the world he concluded no criminality when Lois Lerner sat in front of them and invoked her privilege against criminality. He has gone on national television, he has prejudged the investigation, and in my judgment has compromised the Department of Justice. Either he's wrong or Eric Holder is wrong. In either case, it is time for special counsel, Mr. Chairman.
And Congressman Trey Gowdy joins us. Good evening, sir.
Hey, Greta, how are you?
Good. I can hear the frustration in your voice, and I know that prior to becoming a member of Congress, you were a federal prosecutor, an assistant United States attorney. How would you investigate this case? Because I can tell you're deeply disturbed by not getting to the bottom of it.
Well, Greta, one reason I was as frustrated as I was today is I had spent about 30 minutes before the hearing with Ms. Engelbrecht and Ms. Gerritsen. And when you talk to victims, not lawyers, not cops, but when you talk to victims and you sense their frustration and their fear, it does get you upset. What would I do if I were back in my old job? I'd start by interviewing the witnesses. You know, Jay Sekulow represents 41 different entities, none of whom have been interviewed by the FBI. They tell us there are 12 different people assigned to this investigation team. They've had 6 months, but yet they haven't had a chance to interview a single one of Jay Sekulow's clients. So I start by interviewing the witnesses, and that'd be a great place to start, I would think.
Why do you think the president said to Bill O'Reilly that there's not a smidgen of criminality or corruption? I forgot the exact word, but why do you think he said that to him?
Oh, I don't know, Greta. I mean, why did they blame Benghazi on a video? Why did they call Benghazi a false scandal? Why did they say Benghazi happened a long time ago? I can't tell you what the president's motives were. I can just tell you this. He did a to the career women and men at the Department of Justice when he said that, because when you have an ongoing investigation,
We've lost the congressman, but we did just a short time ago. We talked to Catherine Engelbrecht. Actually, she was spoken to by Griff Jenkins. Now, she's the founder of the King Street Patriots, and she was at the hearing today testifying, as the congressman said, and this is what she said to Griff Jenkins.
Ms. Engelbrecht, thanks for joining us. What is your story? Why are you here in Washington today?
I'm here because I was asked to come give a testimony of my life over the last 3 years, which has involved all manner, 15-plus different audits and investigations among 4 different federal agencies.
And you were a businesswoman for a number of years, and then all of a sudden you became what you believe is a target of political motivation. Explain to me.
Well, prior to my involvement with the Tea Party, prior to my involvement starting True the Vote and King Street Patriots, the government didn't really have much interest in me and my family other than just paying taxes. After filing those nonprofit applications, everything changed. And it's since then that there's been an onslaught of inquiries from the federal government that, to this point, have not been addressed.
When you say an onslaught, who has targeted you, or what sort of challenges have you gone through?
The FBI has visited us on 6 occasions. The IRS has audited my personal and business finances. OSHA has paid our company a visit. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms has come out in 2 consecutive years to do audits. The Texas branch of the EPA came out to do an unplanned audit and inspection. All of these things they have the right to do, and we honored and worked with every single agency. But the question remains not that they came, but who pointed them at us.
You even received letters, I understand, from the ranking member, Elijah Cummings.
Yes, sir.
What did Mr. Cummings send you?
He asked to subpoena documents of True the Vote, wanted to know about all of our practices and alleged things that we simply weren't doing, which makes it very hard to to defend because you can't really defend the negative. He was asserting things that were simply fantasy.
Much has been made about the president's comments in an interview with Bill O'Reilly about not a smidgen of corruption here. How do you respond to that?
It's a sad statement from our commander-in-chief.
What do you want the American people to hear? What do you want them to do?
I want them to remember who we are. The government works for us. It is of the people, and we should not be silent.
Congressman, before this woman became part of the Tea Party, she had never been audited. She has had 15 audits, 4 federal agencies. OSHA, FBI has been out to her 6 times, IRS audit, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and she's even gotten a letter from a Democratic congressman about this. Coincidence?
Oh, boy, it's hard to argue that's a coincidence. And, you know, Greta, we ought to be incentivizing people like Ms. Engelbrecht to get involved in political discourse. And after 20 years of inactivity, to decide you really want to get involved and do something on behalf of your country, to be greeted with that, that's why I was mad. I had just met her this morning before the hearing, and hearing her story and Ms. Gerritson's story, Greta, it would make you mad too. That's not what we want. That's not the message to send to people who are contemplating getting involved in political discourse. I'm speaking to a school tomorrow. I suspect half may be Republicans, half may be Democrats. How foolish would it be for me to discourage people who don't agree with me politically from getting involved in political discourse? We should encourage everybody to do it.
You know, Congressman, to me, it's like there's a zero chance this is a coincidence. Zero chance. The minute she got involved with Tea Party politics, suddenly, I mean, the FBI 6 times to visit her, that's stunning. And the first time she gets audited personally and professionally or business, that's absolutely stunning and terrifying. I mean, when you go through this list, all of a sudden, and the only thing that's changed is she's become a Tea Party member. That's the only thing. Otherwise, she was just a businesswoman, uninvolved. I mean, it's terrifying when this happens.
It is, and you can understand the frustration of Jimmy Jordan and others when after 6 months and having 12 people assigned to, quote, investigate it, she hasn't even been interviewed. Now, the FBI went and talked to her when she was politically active, but they haven't talked to her about her allegations of criminal wrongdoing against the IRS. That's what's so frustrating, is they'll talk to her to try to silence her and chill her free speech, but they won't talk to her when she makes allegations against the IRS. So for the president to say what he said Sunday, I would encourage him to talk to her and talk to Ms. Gerritson and talk to some of the other victims that I have talked to for the last 6 months before he concludes that there's not a smidgen of corruption.
You know, when people say that during the midst of an investigation, when people are obviously hurting, it seems so smug to me. I mean, you really don't get what people go through. You know, maybe you've never been visited by the IRS or the FBI, but when someone like this poor woman, who seems like a good law-abiding woman, I don't know, you know, I don't know her, but when I hear what she has gone through since becoming a Tea Party member, it's hard not to be really, really suspicious.
It ought to make you no longer a Republican and no longer a Democrat, but just a fellow citizen that is outraged that any of your fellow citizens would be treated that way by a government agency, and in her case, multiple government agencies. But you know what happens in Washington, Greta? Everybody retreats and puts on their uniform, and if they're a Democrat, they're going to defend the administration. If they're a Republican, they're going to attack it. I hope I live long enough to see a Democrat or a Republican stand up and criticize their own administration for doing something as unconscionable as this. And if I live long enough to see a Republican Attorney General, I promise you I'll do it.
Well, I hope sometime. I know one of the problems, you and I have discussed this before, is that there's such reluctance on the part of Republicans on the Hill, and you own the House. I mean, you're the dominant party to issue subpoenas, because I'll tell you, subpoenas would be flying out of my office if I had the authority. I know you're not chairman and you can't do that, but I tell you, this investigation should move a lot faster. Subpoenas should be flying, and you can get every single document you want, and when people don't comply with the document, don't comply with the subpoena, that you take action, because no American should suffer like that woman.
That is the world you and I are used to, subpoenas, and you get answers. You would be just as frustrated as I am if you were in Congress, Greta, so don't run.
That's good advice. I'll keep that in mind. Congressman, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.